2018, new rooms opened with a new layout. Which approach and strategies did you use for designing these spaces?
Well, most of all, these new galleries replace old gallery settings, most of which are from the 1970s, when the Uffizi had far less visitors, but also a far less international audience than the Uffizi have today. Now we have more than 2 million visitors every year in the Uffizi, plus another almost 2 million visitors on the other side of the Arno River at the Palazzo Pitti and the Boboli Gardens. But just in the Uffizi, people come from very different and very diverse cultural backgrounds. Whereas the 1970s installation was strongly inspired by a catalographic approach, which means that people would already need to know a lot about art history in order to understand what is where. And moreover, a recent reinstallation was very topographically oriented, so there were all these moments of time travel and chronological breaks and jumps. We actually tried to start not so much from the question, how are we going to order these paintings in a catalographically logical way, but how will the visitors be interacting with the paintings? And that means that we had to choose a musical approach. That is, we have to have fast moments, we have to have very slow moments, we have to have bigger spacings, we have to have concentrations. Only in that way we can assure that people do get the important moments, but also they do not neglect those works that they need to, or we hope at least that they would be discovering. We centered a room around Caravaggio's very, very famous Medusa, but we put less famous works around her in order to contextualize her. In some instances, such as in the Medusa room, there was a thematic thread. In others, it was about the dialogue of different artists. And altogether, our main approach is chronological, it is cross-cultural, which is an approach that was already taken after World War II by the great museum director Roberto Salvini. We took his approach basically. We brought it into the 21st century because it is so timely for our day. So we really show how the artists reacted to one another.
How important is the concept of edutainment, that is the educational entertainment, in the setting up of exhibitions and cultural events?
Well, the concept of edutainment oftentimes is criticized by certain people who think that you have to suffer in order to truly understand art, which is not true. The concept of edutainment, by the way, is an Italian invention. It was invented by Horace already in ancient Roman time. His idea that actually you could educate, you could entertain, but you could also put both together. Aut prodesse volunt, aut delectare poete, aut simul et jucunt, et idonia dicere vitae. Well, what we're trying to do is in fact not to neglect what for most people is the most important part about art, and which is the emotional aspect. So the entertaining aspect, the idea is not diversion, obviously. The idea is not to have people thrilled in a superficial way. In fact, this would not even be possible with such great masterpieces as we have at the Uffizi. Again, think of the Medusa by Caravaggio. This is such a strong painting that it has an immediate emotional impact on visitors, and that means automatically it's not just some abstract work to be learned, but it does really speak to people, whatever knowledge they might have about Caravaggio. That is very important, not just for the permanent collection, also for exhibitions. At the moment we have an exhibition on Spain and Italy in the Renaissance. The dialogue across the Mediterranean Sea. And again, we have a strongly emotional introductory video projection in there to give people the basis and put them into the mindset of the sea as a medium of interchange, exchange of knowledge of other cultures, of discovery. So one does not exclude the other. That's very important. It's not that an exhibition can ever become more scholarly by being boring. Quite the contrary is true.
The use of social networks is becoming always more and more important for attracting and engaging visitors. How is the Uffizi addressing to this need?
Well, when I arrived here as a director a bit more than 2 years ago, the Uffizi did not even have a website. They had no social media either. I founded a new digital communications department, which has 9 members now, and in fact we're active now both on Twitter and on Instagram, and in fact on Instagram we are the fastest growing museum. As we speak, we have more than 120,000 followers already, and our principle is very basic. We propose a new image every morning from our collections, and then we put a explanatory, scholarly but not highbrow text to explain it. It's strictly bilingual, Italian and English, so in fact we have some feedback that some students from Italian schools actually use it in order to improve their English, as well as we do know that some college students from Australia are using it and following it in order to improve their Italian. So there's additional advantages in here. Again, we conceive of our social media not simply as attractors to the museum. We already have more than 2 million visitors. It's not about the numbers. We conceive of them as a part of a channel of our mission, just as we use the exhibitions, as we use scholarly publications, as we use general publications to communicate what we can communicate about these great works of art that we have here at the Uffizi. In the very same way, the social network it's not a promotional channel, but our main thrust is really to use them as educational channels, and I think that's the reason why we are growing faster than others.
How can museums foster and encourage dialogue between people with different social and cultural backgrounds?
That is a very good and important question because we do have people from all sorts of different social and cultural backgrounds in the museum already. So we're very privileged as far as that is concerned. The Japanese are the first in the morning. They always line up before 8 o'clock in order to be the first when we open at 8:15 to be in the galleries. And then slowly the other nations follow. So in order to foster a dialogue with the Japanese, I think we would need to have other people get in early in the morning. Apart from changing our labels for the paintings, which need to be more general, and we're just in the process of doing this. Apart from that, we actually have a new department which I founded on accessibility and cultural mediation. They have been working on some great programs, getting in people from different communities, getting them into dialogue, but then also proposing their results, their approaches, their different approaches to the same work of art on our website. And that has been hugely successful as well. So you can actually have readers, we have viewers that came in from all sorts of different countries, and they documented their personal response to the works of art that they picked on our website. This was just the beginning, so this program is going on, and it is, however, important that a museum which is open to everyone. The Uffizi is open to everyone since 1769. It was one of the first museums in the world to be open to everyone. This, even today, and perhaps today more than ever, can be a hotbed for intercultural and intersocial communication and exchange.
Which is, in your opinion, the main challenge for a museum today?
Well, different museums have different challenges, but there are certain challenges that are actually valid for all the museums. One very fundamental challenge, not just for museums, but certainly for museums, is the digital revolution. People just perceive the world in a different way. Many people come to the museum and hardly get their head and their eyes off their smartphones. That is a phenomenon that we don't just see in the museums. It's something that schools have to fight with. And of course, we cannot simply say no smartphones in the museum. On the contrary, it's important to use the technology to activate it in a productive way in order to really evaluate what is so special about museums, the presence of great original works of art. So it's all right if people bring their phones in there. It's all right that people look up on Wikipedia additional information. Actually, that's pretty wonderful that nowadays you can do it. In the past, you had to write down some notes and then go to the library to do this. Much faster now. It's of course also much faster to get to wrong information, so it's important to educate people in this regard as well. But what is really important is to use the digital media in a way that fosters dialogue between different visitors. You also need to provide information that prompts discussion. So if you add an X-ray image of a work of art and people can look at it together on their phones, then this is something that actually fosters communication between people. Also, if you can download it, if you can forward it to your friends online, there's nothing wrong about that either. So you really need to have content, online content on the phones, on the apps, or we have already developed lots of content for a website which is, however, cross-platform, and so many people actually do use it on their phones in order to get them also back to the work of art and really take advantage of what they can do only here and at no other place in the world, that is to have the presence of the actual work of art.